Listen up. Let's go, let's go.
Welcome to Trojans Live, the exclusive USC Trojans coaches show.
Snap back to Caleb. He'll run it himself to the 10. Down to the 5. He's going to go. Touchdown!
With behind-the-scenes insights and breaking news from the student athletes who play for the Cardinal and Gold.
Ellis comes to the right wing 4 seconds to go. Boogie at the free throw line for the win. He buries it. Boogie Ellis set the buzzer.
Trojans Live is presented by Monster Energy. Unleash the beast. Now, live from Los Angeles, here are your hosts, Jordan Moore, Max Brown, and Keely Orr.
Hello and welcome to Trojans Live, presented by Monster Energy on AM 790 KBC and across the USC Trojans Media Network. I am Jordan Moore alongside Keely Orr in place of Sean Cody
I know,
today.
we miss him.
We leveled up today.
Do we? I don't know. I think we're the big winners here today. Sean's actually has a good excuse for not being here. The great Reggie Bush is being inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame, and Sean is there supporting his former college teammates. So that's a good USC reason. Max Brown, of course, with us, and we've got Bennie Wylie, one of our favorite guests. USC's coach interview is presented by I Trust Capital, the official crypto platform of the USC Trojans. Bennie Wylie, of course, the director of football sports performance here at USC. Coach, good to have you. We obviously see the things in the field, and everyone judges everything by the results in the field. How was year two for you, though, in terms of your program and what you were trying to instill here? How do you recap, your year in your area?
Just, of course, like we're always judged, like in our room, with just wins and losses. I mean, that's just how it is. Based on how the year is, that's how we did in the weight room. And so we're critical, like, of ourselves, and so we know there's work to do. And so, again, like, we're, of course, disappointed, but we know that there's only just room to go up, so.
In that sense, do you evaluate as the season's going on what you want to address in the offseason, or is that something that you approach once the season's over and you know what the roster looks like?
Yeah, we're currently always evaluating, because like in this profession, like you don't get to sit on your laurels. You have to always think ahead. And in the world of the portal, you're almost thinking like what's next always. And it's always changing. And this is just a new world of like college football. So even just like amidst the games, like you're thinking, okay, these are things that we've got to improve on. These are areas that we know we're going to lose next year and things like that. So I would say constant and always like evaluating.
Mm.
In my opinion, I think the strength and conditioning piece is one of the most underrated components that the average football fan doesn't really know the extent of it. I think for me, I spent more time with the head strength coach during my time here than my own position coach, and you lose track of that, especially during the offseason. But we're in an era, you mentioned the transfer portal and player movement and whatnot, and when I was here, like the dudes that were there on January 15th, like that was pretty much your roster for the rest of the season. Yeah, you were going to get an influx of high school kids, but now you got guys coming in at different stages and things like that. How does that change your programming, your mindset, and the way you have to approach an offseason when, like I said, guys are going to be coming in at different months at a time?
Yeah, and like I would say it doesn't even change just mine, but just our whole profession. It has changed what we do and how we do it. You used to have 2 or 3 or 4 years with guys, and you could build culture that way. And, you had your juniors, that could teach like all the young guys. And you had your seniors that kind of ran the show. And like right now you have the portal where like you may know a guy for like a month and he's already a team captain. And those things have just changed just the culture and the off season and the dynamics of what we do. And so you're forced to build the culture and build the toughness and build those competitive like environments even before we get on the field. And so that's really crucial and kind of where like Coach Riley and myself have kind of talked about where we have to really shore that up and even put more emphasis into culture and competitiveness and like building that culture early and often.
You're listening to Bennie Wylie on Trojans Live. Big news of the week as USC football hired a new defensive coordinator in Danton Lynn. You obviously haven't had a ton of time with him, but I saw some stuff from Coach Riley's press conference today that there have been some initial conversations. What have they been like, with you and Danton in terms of, what he's looking for out of you and ways to maybe tweak the program to fit his defensive needs and system?
Sure, almost none other than like I saw him at practice and just walked up right away. He's got great energy. He's super positive, great vibes, from just off the cuff.
Yep.
I can tell that he's got some kind of hidden stuff in there, pretty calm on the surface, but I know he's got some dog in him. And so just excited to just get to know him more, and get to know what he's just kind of what he's about. And so we talked about kind of body weights and things like that we know that we're going to have to address as we're getting ready to move into the Big Ten.
Yeah, in that sense, we heard from Coach Wylie earlier today, and he talked about one of the non-negotiables he had going forward was getting bigger up front for the defensive line. For you as the strength coach, how do you approach that, knowing that directive has kind of been laid upon you?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, when it's clear and like all members know, it is super easy. Just makes my job easy. When the players know, when the coaches know, when I know when those standards are set, it is easy because there's just no gray area, and we know where we're going. Like, we're going to the Big Ten, not the medium 10. And so there's no options for like our football team to grow, and we're really excited about that. And that takes me back to my years like at Texas Tech, where we brought in kind of undersized like O-line and D-line guys and had to build them up and put 20, 30, 40 pounds on guys. And so that's just right up my wheelhouse. So
where does that change what you're emphasizing? Because on one side you want to get bigger, but the flip side is USC, we're known for speed, and you don't want to necessarily sacrifice that, because if I'm Iowa or I'm Northwestern in the Big Ten, that's what I fear about USC is the speed component. Are the lifts changing, and is it a nutrition thing? Where do the emphasis change?
Every bit of those, all of those. And our guys just have to eat. And in the world of where we were coming in, we could say, well, like, I want to be fast, I want to be light, I want to be lean, and that's just not where we're going and what we're doing. And so there's no option. And you have a ton of teams that are already in that conference that are big and fast. And so we can do the same thing. So it's not optional, it's non-negotiable. You don't get an opinion. Like, you get to lift, you get to eat, and that's it.
One of the things that really just noticed a prevalence of now across multiple sports at USC, we notice guys wearing what they call the catapult system. I'm wearing wearable technology. Everyone sort of has it now. And I feel like we don't talk about it a lot. We see these pictures constantly, these guys wearing it. We don't really talk about it. Where has the technology gone in your profession? How are you guys using that now than maybe you were 5 years ago, when it was sort of like, oh, so-and-so can run, we're now talking about speed in miles per hour. That was sort of like one of the first things. But how do you guys actually use it?
Yeah, we have a sports scientist who is, absolutely like phenomenal, probably the smartest guy in the building, Jack Polk. He does a great job of like collecting that data. And where you really want to use that is health. That's the number one thing. You can have all these metrics, you can have the sports science, but if it's interfering with just the old school toughness and like the culture, then it's kind of like in the way, So we want to make sure that we use that data, that we're keeping our guys safe, we're keeping them healthy. Just for example, Caleb, that was one of our huge metrics for him. During the week of practice, he had to hit a certain mile per hour if he was going to do that like in a football game. And we took like year one of those injuries and those nicks, and that was really the number one key indicator of his health, is if he ran well on Tuesday and Wednesday in practice. And he fought me a little bit, and by a little bit I mean a lot, by, Coach, I don't want to run today. Well, I don't care if you want to run, you're going to run today. And so just having the data out there like on an iPad, you're looking at the speeds just live, and so it gives us great feedback and instant feedback, and gives like all of our team just an opportunity to meet those metrics and needs that we have to have.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, the last thing that stood out to me about Riley's presser today was he's talking about they're extremely impressed by the offensive line freshman class. And I know you spend a lot of time with them. What have you seen from them? Riley said that in the bowl practices so far, it kind of stood out that they look different. So I was curious what you've seen.
I would say Josh Henson did a great job of like recruiting big athletic dudes now. They are freaking big. And so when we look about going into the Big Ten, that's one of the positions that from a youth standpoint, they like already match up. They are freaking big and they're athletic. And like I told him today, God only makes big, fast, flexible like O-linemen about every 2.5 years. He just doesn't make them very often. And so they are in that category of big, athletic, fast. They're funny dudes, man. They are what you think about as like an O-line. They're tight knit. They're always together. They hang out together. They lift together. Like they Stairmaster with me together. And so we do a lot of things together. But a great group of young, talented, hardworking dudes that, they have a tremendous upside.
Awesome.
Well, the Trojans are headed to the Big Ten, and Bennie Wylie is going to get them big and ready for it. But a bowl game first, the Holiday Bowl, December 27th against Louisville. That has been officially announced, a 5 o'clock kick. Our show will go on at 3 o'clock, so we'll have all the coverage around that bowl game, and we will talk about it next. You're listening to Trojans Live.
Covering all things SC.
Touchdown, USC!
It's Trojans Live on your home for Trojans football, AM 790 KABC.
Trojans Live is brought to you by Monster Energy, the official energy drink of USC. Unleash the beast. And hey, Trojan fans, did you know the Ralph's app gives you easy access to weekly sales and personalized coupons? And you can earn field points too. Check out the app today and save while you cheer us on to another great season. Ralph's, proud partner of USC Athletics. Jordan Moore, Keely Eure, Max Brown, little football roundtable for you. And we finally had some news. The last couple shows, we were sort of waiting, hoping some stuff would break, and a couple things happened at once. Let's start with what I mentioned already, the new defensive coordinator, Danton Lynn. Certainly an interesting hire because it comes right from cross town and success he had at UCLA. What was your immediate reaction when you saw the news?
My immediate reaction was going back to, I believe, 2 episodes ago where Max
Let's go.
completely called that one.
I like reference.
Remember that? Was I not there?
No, you were there.
I wasn't like, this is going to be our next DC, but I used him as a reference point a couple times in our answer.
He alluded to it, and I said, oh, I thought you were alluding to USC getting Danton Lynn. And he was like, I'm not saying no. So
I got to pull the clips.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the hire, though. I had the pleasure of spending a half hour with him week 2 of this season when I called the UCLA game, and a stud, young dude, which is exciting. I think that helps on the recruiting trail. And I'm excited about getting a guy where, you know, he's on the climb up. It's not necessarily a guy who's been doing it for 20 years and it's an established name, which, hey, there's a lot to be said about that. But it's exciting that you're getting a guy that's on the climb up. Obviously, his dad, former head coach of the Chargers, and then his list of mentors too. He's learned from the best, which is exciting if he's able to pull the best pieces from each one.
Yeah, you know, a coach is young when you can see his player interviews on YouTube. I was like, he was at Penn State, looks the same, like it's crazy. He's a young guy, but it was interesting when we were prepping for the UCLA game, the accolades he has from coaches in the NFL that was like, this guy's, he went from a position coach in the NFL to a first-year DC at the college level. You know that he has the chops, let alone who his dad is, but very interested to see. It's a little bit of a risky hire given how important the defensive success is going forward, but it's trending younger these days for coaches, and Riley said it earlier this morning. He's a rising star in the industry, so why not go with a rising star? And
he's done this past year exactly what they want him to do. Now, can he do it again? Obviously, he has to do it. That's on him. But UCLA, the defense that he inherited, was ranked 87th in the nation, and they were 11th in 1 year. That's exactly what they want him to do. Can he do it? We'll see. But that's, that to me is the biggest reason for the hire right there.
And Lakin's comment stuck out to me where he said a couple times in his interview today or yesterday, whenever it was, of, hey, it's going to start with how can we play the best defense. And I think there's a lot of head coaches that say, oh, team ball, it's got to be complementary, it's all three phases, that type of narrative. That was not the message from Lincoln, which obviously he wants to play great special teams and offense as well. But he knows that for this team to take the next step, it's got to happen on the defensive side of the ball. And so, giving Coach Lynn the ability to dictate practice how he wants to, have impact in the strength and conditioning component, that's huge. And I think that's a good sign by Coach Riley.
Yeah, Riley made he was very direct. He said they want to be the best football staff, defensive staff in America. They want to be an elite defense here at USC. He said support staff, the way they practice, which is interesting. I know last regime we talked about practice so much and how it was kind of stubborn about making changes. Riley was like, we will do whatever to be defensive minded first. So I thought that was really interesting. He made no qualms about it today.
Also made it pretty clear that the systems are different. Just watching on film, Max, what do you see in terms of how he's approaching it differently than Alex Grinch would have?
He was listening to our episode last time I was on the pregame show where we got an argument about body size and body type. You can tell Lincoln's definitely on your page of we have to get bigger up front, larger humans.
Well, it was one question I wanted to ask Bennie Wylie that I didn't get to, but it's the question of, do a lot of the problems need to be solved in recruiting, and recruiting meaning the portal as well? He basically said, I could put 30, 40 pounds on it. So he sort of answered my question. I think he would have, that would have been his answer, is like, no, I can work with anything, but recruiting maybe helps if all of a sudden you just have larger humans.
And it sounds basic too, but like he mentioned, you got to eat. That was his first response there. And guys like a strong safety in the Pac-12, you can maybe play strong safety at 185 pounds. That dude needs to be 205 in the Big Ten. The defensive end, who's a pass rush specialist, he might be able to get away with that at 245 in the Pac-12. That dude needs to be 265. So like those are examples of position types and position groups where this offseason, it's the getting that extra meal a day is going to matter because it's just a different body type that you need.
And I mentioned the two non-negotiables to Coach Wylie. The second one was that Riley was looking for a defensive coordinator who wouldn't force his scheme on the players that they have, which I think speaks to, one, the future of college football, but also the current state of USC's roster.
Yeah,
like
make it work.
You got to make it work. And hopefully, like Riley said earlier today, they want to get back to a traditional model going through the high school ranks and not just getting things out of the transfer portal. But there's a current need right now that USC has that is not going to be fixed until several years of recruiting happen. So you got to be able to work with what you got and not just force it in, hope it works.
The other big piece of news, as I mentioned, obviously the Trojans are going to the Holiday Bowl. They'll take on Louisville in San Diego. We've become very familiar with the Holiday Bowl, though at least it's a new venue this time around. It's at Petco Park where the San Diego Padres play. Any initial reactions to that matchup or that game?
Huge opportunity for Miller Moss. That's my first opportunity, obviously outlined today.
It was announced today that Caleb Williams won't play in the game.
And with that, I mean, Coach basically said, looking at potentially adding another quarterback through the portal. So a huge opportunity for Miller, a guy that's been on campus a bunch, has the Cal start from last season, but that's a huge opportunity to set that standard. It actually reminds me when I was a high school recruit coming in here and Max Whittick got that start in the Sun Bowl, and it did not go his way. And I think that's not just for Max Whittick's playing ability, but it set the narrative that offseason that, hey, maybe it's Cody Kessler's job to lose. If Matt Barkley had started at Sun Bowl, maybe the narratives that whole offseason are different. I think that's a season where I had deja vu thinking that, Miller's going to get his first real opportunity here.
I mean, I have made so many comparisons throughout this season to 2012. I mean, unfortunately, they're not the most positive comparisons, but I thought the same thing. It's almost the exact same ending to it. Obviously, hopefully it goes better for for Miller than it did for Max.
Yeah,
There's
kind of a narrative that Miller Moss never really got a full chance, and like given that his senior season was the 2020 COVID season, like this will be the chance for Miller to stake his claim. But I did think it was definitely interesting. Riley wouldn't commit to anything, but he definitely said that quarterback depth is an issue and that they want to look at the transfer portal. So we'll see. And what's interesting is Riley said that this Holiday Bowl is kind of a half and half. He said it's one step in the finishing out this season, but it's one step towards next season. It seems like that we're going to see a lot of new faces, and the redshirt rule apparently doesn't count for the bowl games.
Yeah.
So it seems like we're going to see a lot
get
of
anyone
people.
to play.
Exactly. It's going to be a tryout, and especially if D'Anton Lynn is watching, you want to see how guys react to game reps.
And on the Miller Moss front, Lincoln Riley said yes, they may look in the portal, but he expects Miller to be in the mix no matter what. So if we head to a quarterback competition, which maybe we haven't had one in a couple of years. I guess they sort of had one when they brought in Caleb, but I think we all felt pretty good that Caleb was going to win that job. This gives Miller the first punch, basically. He goes out there and throws for 350, 3 touchdowns, and wins a bowl game. He's gonna walk into spring practice feeling a little bit differently than if it's a tough night. And with a team that's going to be looking for player leadership, if he's a guy that's been here a long time and's got a bunch of homies and whatnot, that certainly sets him up right. And it's a big picture. I think it's a weaker quarterback transfer portal market than it was last year. And so if you're going to go and get your guy. Again, I think with Miller playing at a better level relative to maybe other backup quarterbacks, and you're going and getting there's a lot of familiar names in the top 10 of the quarterback, the transfer portal quarterbacks. It'll be interesting. Teams active in it too. Yeah. That's the other thing. I mean, it's like half of USC's schedule next year is the guys that are all looking at these same quarterbacks. And you're right. I don't know if it's a weaker. It's just there's not one guy to me that goes, that's the guy that changes everything the way Caleb was when he came to USC.
100%. And I just want to add one more note about Miller. I feel like he's improved so much under Lincoln Riley, and I know I'm not breaking any news here because Lincoln Riley is who he is with quarterbacks, but I think that was something that has been underrated, and people who probably don't watch practice, they haven't really been able to see. And so I'm curious now with 2 years under Lincoln Riley, what does he look like in a game environment? I'm curious. Yeah, great showcase for him. Taking a step outside of the USC bubble a little bit, obviously college football playoff selection committee had to make a real decision maybe for the first time ever, and I'm just happy to see that everyone's on my side. My general take, if people don't know, is that college football games are probably better than any other sport that there is in the world, and everything else about the sport is a complete mess. And that's just sort of where I'm at, and then everyone seems to be there now, because it's amazing that they never got pushed to a decision before this. I mean, really, in the history of this, they created a 14 playoff with 5 power conferences. And other than that one year where they let Ohio State in over the 2 Big 12 teams, I think it was Baylor and TCU that year, they never really had to make a decision. And it just didn't, if Alabama doesn't have the miracle play against Auburn, they wouldn't have had to make one this year. But they had to, and everyone is unhappy. Where did you guys come down on it? Max, you can take this one. I have so many thoughts.
I think it was, a terrible situation for FSU, but they got it right, in my opinion. I think that's how I would have voted, and I totally agree with you. It's crazy this was the first year they had to make a real decision, and it's also crazy that in years past we were debating whether or not they should expand or not. Feels like there's universally it's okay, I'm glad we're expanding because of this type of situation. You're never going to get this again. You can always make the argument, okay, this year would have been Ole Miss or Penn State at 12-13 or whatever it is, but that's a different argument than an 100%. Undefeated conference champ. That's like the basketball argument where you're talking about, hey, I'm sorry you're the 65th team instead of the 64th, but that's not the same as leaving a 1 seed out.
The wild part is that the CFP actually has in their judgment criteria that if a player is injured, that will affect their overall rankings. And so it was in there beforehand. So
never used.
Yeah.
And in Ohio State's case, ignored, and then Ohio State ends up winning the national championship with Cardell Jones that one year. But no, I saw it in basketball. The only comp that I can remember years ago, you like Cincinnati basketball. Am I making that up or no? You're making that up, but I'll roll with that. Maybe it's somebody else. It's somebody else that I'm thinking of. But Cincinnati basketball back in the day, they were the best team in the country. Kenyon Martin broke his leg in the conference tournament, and they dropped him a seed speed line. It's the only thing that I could think of when this Jordan Travis thing happened. And so you've seen it in basketball. It's just such a different deal with football because it means so much.
It's just horrible when you have a young person tweeting, "I wish I broke my leg earlier in the season." That should just never be a
good
scenario.
Yeah, not great. All right, Trojans Live is sponsored by Pechanga Resort Casino, proud partner of USC football. Hey, we have a slew of athletes coming up here on Trojans Live. Some fun conversations to come. Next up will be Julia Karten from women's rowing, coming up right now on Trojans Live.
Cue up the band. Because Trojans Live is back exclusively on your home for Trojans football, AM 790 KABC.
The best of the game is brought to you by Old Dominion Freight Line, official freight carrier of USC Athletics, helping the world keep promises. We've got Julia Karten from USC Women's Rowing, Jordan Moore, Keely Eure, Max Brown. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you as well.
Well, welcome to Trojans Live. You're a sophomore. You're from Philly.
Yes.
Is that a big rowing town? How'd you get into rowing?
It is a big rowing town. There's a lot of history in the city. When I was growing up, we would always drive by on the highway. We would drive past Boathouse Row, where there's about 15 boathouses all lined up. If the Eagles are playing, it's lit up in green lights. If it's Christmas time, it's lit up in red lights. And there's a lot of history in the city, and I wanted to jump in. You know,
back east, we call them highways.
Oh.
Not freeways.
It's freeways.
Just so you know, what she was referring to is we would call it freeway. It took me a long time to make that switch, but
the translation.
Julia's just a couple years out here. So.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yes.
In that sense, how does someone from Philly get to USC for rowing?
Honestly, USC was the only school on the West Coast I was talking to, but I love the coaches. I'd always wanted to come to a school with a ton of school spirit, and I definitely found that in USC. There's great academics and a great mix of athletics, and throughout the recruiting process, I loved the coaches and I loved everything about it, and I came on my official and decided I wanted to be here.
Awesome. So the boathouse, 15 in a row, like where does that come from? Is it just like a body of water that makes a bunch of sense and people invest in there? Or like what's the backstory with that?
Yeah, rowing's a really old sport, and it's on the Schuylkill River in Philly, which is perfect place for rowing. So I don't know a ton of the history, but I think they just built them all up there, and it's, everyone just wanted their own space, so now there's a ton of them all in a row.
And I've heard your family has gotten really into it now. You're officially a rowing family. How is that playing out?
My dad rowed for a year in college, but didn't continue it a ton. And then when I got back into it, my mom really wanted to pick it up, and she brought my dad with her to take a few lessons. And then my brother, who's a junior in high school, decided he wanted it in as well. So this is his second year rowing now. This summer, we actually rowed a family quad together. So that's definitely making it on the Christmas card this year.
So what does that actually mean, a family quad?
So it's a boat with 4 people.
Sure.
So all 4 of us together.
But where'd you row? Like, is there a family race or something?
No, we just rowed for fun. But we
okay.
went back to the boathouse. They now all row for the same club that I rowed for in high school. So we got a coach, we took out a boat, and we didn't make it too far, but it was fun.
I just feel like rowing's all about communication. So you get to work on family communication.
Oh, yes, very much.
Who's the leader and who's the weak link?
Sorry, Dad. I think my dad was the weak link.
Oh, and
Sorry,
they're
Dad. I called you out.
Yeah, they are watching. My brother was the bow seat, so he was the one directing and steering. So, he was doing a good job being in charge. Well, my mom and I were just there.
Well, you just mentioned that the bow seat. So when it comes to USC rowing, you row in an 8-person boat, correct?
Yes, most of the time.
Yeah. Where do you sit, and how does that sort of determine your role in the boat?
Honestly, I usually sit in a different seat every day, especially in the fall and early in the spring. We're constantly in different lineups, which is, good. You have to learn to adapt, but it's definitely hard because of that. The stroke seat is the person who's setting the rhythm, and then if you're back towards bow, you're usually setting up the boat with the technique, and in the middle four is usually the powerhouse. So we switch all around, and it's fun to learn.
You're
a
powerhouse.
Sides. Oh, yeah, of course.
There we go. Love that.
Now, I heard that there's a lot of criteria to make it to the top boat, and that criteria changes every week, or you fight for that top spot. What goes into, getting into the top boat?
A lot of it is mostly strength. We spend a lot of time on the rowing machine too, which is a very direct number of like how fit you are. There's technique that goes into it, but that's a lot of it. And then also just moving boats on the water. We'll do seat races. So you take 2 boats, you race them down, and then you switch 2 people and you see how they switch differently, like which boat was moving faster. But there's a lot of factors that can go into play with that, like the water and currents and everything. Wow. So a lot of it is our coaches watching, switching people sometimes just to see how things are moving. And we spent all year, and lineups changed right up until the last race.
I remember when I was here, a good amount of the women rowers that we had were elite at other sports and then recruited over to become rowers.
Yes.
Is that frequent, and what kind of advantage do you have by being someone who started younger in this sport?
I think, sports like lacrosse. So when I played a lot of sports growing up, and I think sometimes I enjoyed those sports, but I didn't start when I was 3 years old, so I felt a little bit behind. But rowing is, I think, pretty typical to pick it up in high school. So I like that the playing field was more even. But I mean, rowing, it's all about fitness. There's a ton of technique that goes into it, but if you are a big athlete in a different sport, you come in and you're fit, like they'll teach you how to row.
Yep.
How is this team looking? You had a couple fall events, and now you head into the spring. How's the group look?
I think we look good. We spend all fall training just to race a few times in the spring, and we have raced a few times in the fall. Just they're a little bit more like relaxed races, but we're doing well. There's always things to improve on, and I think we put a lot of fitness in the fall. So I'm excited to see how it plays out in the spring.
One of the races you guys had was against Stanford, who won the national championship last season. Do you directly compare how you guys want to go up against a national champ? Like, what are the takeaways from a race like that?
Overall, our coach thought it was very positive. They are the reigning national championship, so they're definitely fast. But I think we were happy with our margins on them, and it was really good for us to just, throw down and test our speed because we knew they were going to be fast. So we're just doing everything we can. But it was really fun. It was fun to see them and good to test our speed.
As a football player, when you go on into road stadiums, like for me, playing at Arizona State and Georgia Tech, you knew that was going to be like a fast track. And playing at Notre Dame before they went turf, it was like going to be really slow. They had long grass. For rowing, when there are certain waters that are going to be like choppy and hard to manage, and then others that are smooth and easy, where you're like, oh, sweet, we get to play in this event or row in this event where we know it's going to be smooth versus, we're going to the East Coast, just for an example, where like it's choppier. Is that a thing, or how does that play out in your sport?
It is a thing, but I think it's so dependent on weather in the area you're racing. There are some courses. We went to Princeton last year to race, and that was pretty very smooth course. But then we raced at Head of the Charles in Boston this year, and that's usually pretty windy and like ton of choppy water. So there are some courses that are going to be harder to race on, but for the most part, I think if it's windy that day, the course is going to be windy.
You ready for rowing to go mainstream this holiday season? George Clooney's got a big rowing movie coming out.
I know. I'm very excited.
Adapted
The Huskies.
Boys in the Boat. Yeah.
Yes.
Pac-12 rowing. It's on the guys' side, but just saying, it could be the most popular sport this
Oh,
time
yeah.
next year if the movie hits.
I
That's the
know.
way these things go. Formula One was the last thing to hit. Could be rowing next. You're a step ahead though. You already got your spot.
I know.
OG.
So you're good to go. Good luck on a great season, USC women's rowing. Check it out. All the information to follow them on USCTrojans.com. Monster Energy, the official energy drink of USC. Unleash the beast and fight on Trojans and fly on with ONT. Ontario International Airport is a proud sponsor of our USC Trojans. Visit SoCalSoEasy.com to book your journey through ONT today. Allie Jones, USC heptathlete for track and field, is next on Trojans Live.
Rising up, pushing up to the summit. Got the keys to the show, yeah, we run it. Set the pace for the race, and we don't wait. Give it all for the win, this is our day. Energy, energy, unleash the inner beast. Energy, energy, rising to the top. See you at the peak. Unleash the inner beast, but we never stop till the victory.
Taking you inside the huddle. All right. From the comfort of your car. It's Trojans Live on your home for Trojans football. AM 790 KABC.
Trojans Live is sponsored by Pechanga Resort Casino, proud partner of USC Athletics. Jordan Moore, Keely Yore, Max Brown, and Allie Jones joins us now. She's a graduate senior. Very accomplished already, Allie. I mean, you've basically already done this. You won the Pac-12 championship in the heptathlon at USC and at Stanford. You came over from Stanford. You just have one season left now, right? Indoor?
Yep.
We're about out of eligibility?
Yes. Finally, six years later. Yeah, just one more indoor season.
So you do the heptathlon in outdoors. What is the equivalent in indoors?
Yeah, so indoors we do the pentathlon, which is 5 events all in one day.
What are they?
So 60 hurdles, high jump, shot put, long jump, and then finish with the 800.
What does training look like for that? How do you
busy?
Yeah.
How do you prioritize certain things?
Yeah, so honestly, just like super strict schedule of 2 events per day, and then just keep it really organized. We break down certain days with certain events. So today I did jav and hurdles, and tomorrow I'll do long jump and then some running. So yeah, honestly, it sometimes varies based on like how my body is feeling, or what we need to get done, or in like meet season, we often don't have Fridays, so that already then condenses our 5-day practice schedule, or 6 if you include Saturday, to now even less. And you have to get more events in. So it's busy, but I like it. I like kind of the variation. No day is the same.
And how'd you get going down this path specifically, where it was like, was it just in middle school or something where you're like, hey, I actually can throw and run and let's learn how to jump? Or like, how did that all play out?
Yeah, so I played soccer for a majority of my life growing up, and then I started running track because my family, both of my older sisters, they did like basketball, gymnastics, and my parents were like, you didn't try any other sports. So they're like, what do you want to try? And I was debating between lacrosse and track, and I ended up choosing track. And so I did hurdles and just like normal events, and
Not 5 in one day.
yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
And then kind of along my like sophomore year, I was exposed to the heptathlon from one of my competitors that we raced all the time against each other. She's like, you should totally try it. And I met with her coach, and he's like, yeah, we'll give you kind of like 3-month trial period, and you'll do a few HEPs and see how it works. And it all worked out. Yeah.
HEPs. There we go.
Yeah.
I now know the lingo.
Abbreviated, yeah.
Nice.
Easier than heptathlon.
You're listening to Allie Jones on Trojans Live. I believe it's true with most multi-event athletes is that you're going to have strengths and weaknesses, right? You're trying to really win and dominate in your strengths, and you're trying to just get enough points to hang in there in your weaknesses. What are those for you?
Yeah, so strengths, kind of since I started with hurdles, that's definitely one of my strengths. And then I kind of throws are at my areas of improvement.
Sure.
I would say.
I like that.
Growth mindset.
Yeah, exactly. Growth mindset. And already the throws, the way it's scored, it's not super comparable. Like if I need to get 1,000 points in javelin, I have to throw 55 or 60 meters, which is what girls at nationals are doing in open javelin. Whereas in hurdles, I'm running my like 12.9, and that's also getting like 1,100. So they have a saying of like the bars and barriers are your big scores. So kind of back to your original question, throws area of improvement, but hurdles and then jumps are kind of like the mid tier, and then the 200 as well is kind of one of my better events as well.
Hurdles look so intimidating to me. Is there a key to doing it? I feel like, is there like a rhythm that you have to get into? What's the key there?
Yeah, just rhythm. It's funny because I have sometimes trained without my glasses. I'm not that blind, but so I'm kind of used to running, and you kind of it just goes black because you're so used to and so in tune with the rhythm. So yeah, just rhythm and consistency with that. A lot of practice.
You don't even need to see clearly.
Not all the time.
Okay.
Though for meets, I'm definitely wearing my contacts. Don't worry.
You had a very successful career at Stanford. Why the jump over to USC?
Yeah, I think I wanted a new experience, academically and athletically, and then Stanford just didn't have my master's that I wanted. I was kind of narrowed in exactly what I wanted to do, which is healthcare management, and USC has an MHA program, and Stanford didn't really have anything like that, and so I didn't really want to spend another additional year of undergrad just kind of taking random classes. They call it Camp Stanford. So I'm sure it would have been fun, but yeah, I think this move has been like so great for me, both academically and athletically.
Yeah, you're collecting every prestigious degree in California. That's a good way
record.
to do it. Eyes on Paris?
For sure, of course. Kind of nerve-wracking to set
I
that
would imagine.
goal. But I think something that I'm learning and still kind of growing the confidence in me is that that's something that's completely attainable. So yeah, it's definitely on my vision board.
You talked about how insane your schedule is just for training, but then you mentioned your master's. How do you juggle all that? It just seems unreal.
Yeah, I think I learned a lot in undergrad managing like a really rigorous academic schedule and athletic schedule. So I've kind of carried on those skills here. Just staying on top of all my work, going to office hours, emailing professors. It's kind of posed a different challenge here because I'm the first athlete in my master's program.
Wow.
So we're kind of figuring it out as we go. Yeah. And there's classes, yeah, literally. There's classes so they do intensives that only meet on the weekends. And I'm like, I'm traveling every weekend. So so we kind of have to make it work. I take maybe a little different variation of a class, but But yeah, time management, it's definitely a big skill.
I'm sure.
And what do you want to do with that degree?
Good question.
Sorry, you seemed.
Jeez, Dad.
Yeah, okay. Honestly, I think I want to go into some sort of health consulting. Right now I'm working at Keck in their Office of Performance and Transformation doing process improvement. So that kind of looks like going in, seeing a process, where are there areas potentially of weakness, and where can we go in and fill in with improvements. So something like that at a hospital, so process improvement, or more general healthcare consulting at a firm like PwC or Bain.
Wow.
Well, incredibly impressive on the track,
impressive.
off the track. Allie Jones putting us all to shame. Thank you so much for taking the time. Enjoy your indoor season, and good luck the rest of the way. We will be watching. When you've got good beer and good vibes, it's all Buenas. Don Buena Vesa Salt and Lime Lager is Baja-inspired and imported from San Diego, located near you at fine.stonebrewing.com. We've got one more guest to come. It's Kyle Paulson from USC Men's Volleyball. He's next on Trojans Live.
Rising up, pushing up to the summit. Got the keys to the show, yeah, we run it. Set the pace for the race, and we don't wait. Give it all for the win, this is our day. Energy, unleash the inner beast. Energy, rising to the top. See you at the peak. Unleash the inner beast, where we never stop till the victory.
It's like getting a degree in Trojan athletics without the tuition. It's Trojans Live on your home for Trojans football, AM 790 KABC.
Our Women's Spotlight with Allie Jones was brought to you by Sprouts Farmers Market, open 7 days a week. Visit your neighborhood Sprouts for good-for-you groceries and great prices on the freshest produce. And if you want the inside scoop on this game and all things Trojans, be sure to sign up for the 3 Torches presented by Smart and Final. It's a free newsletter that'll hit your email inbox 3 times a week with game info, player insights, and more. Go to usctrojans.com/3torches and sign up. You'll get some men's volleyball information soon because their season is about to start. Jordan Moore, Keeley, or Max Brown. Kyle Paulson joins us now, a leader on this men's volleyball team. You guys get going in just about a month. It's coming up here quick. How's the squad looking?
Pretty good. We had a couple of preseason tournaments. Results weren't exactly what we wanted, but we saw some good progress, which is always a good thing. We have a lot of new people that are going to be starting this year, so happy to see how they perform. And I think our first game is January 4th.
What's off-season training been like? We heard that you did a Coliseum run today. Is that true?
Yeah, the guys did a Coliseum run today. I unfortunately did not. I had to get a shot in my back today. So.
Ouch.
Yeah, but doing fine now. But,
Cutting it out for Trojans Live, though. I mean, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm feeling fine now. Wasn't too bad, but the guys had a good time today. They posted a couple pictures and videos on the Instagram, so you can go check that out, see how they did.
That would be at USC Men's Volley on Instagram.
That gives me flashbacks of the Coliseum training days. That's not fun. But how'd you land at USC? Obviously, you're a Southern California kid and a senior. And what's the run been like the past 4 years?
Well, coming into USC, I started volleyball really late. Started like my sophomore year of high school. Reached out my senior year to Coach Nygaard. It's just kind of like a shot in the dark, and he ended up responding. And then Rory Prager came out to my practices, and then from there I just decided I loved it here and wanted to be here.
You have a sports family. I had to write all this
Unreal.
out. You have twin sisters who play college soccer. You have a father who played soccer in college, a mother who played volleyball, grandfather played football. Grandmother sounds like the best best athlete, though. She was a champion inline speed skater. Grandfather was a pro tennis player and is in the Philippines Hall of Fame. Is he the best athlete? Who's the best athlete in the family?
Honestly, me.
Yeah, there we go.
But no, everyone in my family has just been really big into sports. My grandpa has coached for 30 years in track, and he coached national champions here in California and Olympians too. So I would say it's just everyone in my family's gotten the genes.
Is everyone tall?
Yeah. So on my mom's side, yes. On my dad's side, not so much. But my sisters, both of them are 6'1".
Wow.
My mom's 5'9" as a full Filipino, which is kind of tall. So I think I got most of my height from there. I was not supposed to be this tall, though.
As someone who is as tall as you are, but you said you got late into men's volleyball, how did that process come about?
My parents met playing co-ed volleyball after college. They wanted me to play, but I just refused. I wanted to play soccer the entire way.
6'8's not great for soccer.
No, I think I was like 6'4" when I switched from soccer to volleyball. I just got tired of all that running.
Yeah.
Understandable.
And it's hard to track with the COVID years, but is this the final year for you at SC?
Yeah, so I came in during COVID in 2020, so I didn't get the COVID year, so this is last year.
What's the mindset there? Is it soak it all in, one last trip, or is it more of a unfinished business type of mindset?
More of an unfinished business. My sophomore year, we had a lot of seniors, and we had a really good team. Unfortunately, didn't make it to NCAA, so I think we have a really good team that has a really good chance at making it this year. So I have some good expectations for our team.
And then what's your plan for the future? If you stay in volleyball, is it indoor, is it beach? Do you feel like you've accomplished what you wanted to in volleyball? Where are you at?
After college, I want to go play overseas, indoor, somewhere in Europe preferably. And then once that career runs out, hopefully I can come back and play beach.
As you mentioned, the season starts right at the start of January. Max, I know you had to deal with this, but you get prepped during holiday season? How do you get ready to go in January?
We've done a lot of training so far over this semester, and a lot of it's building up towards that. So we have a program that Curtis, our strength coach, has given us. So everyone's got to follow that, and I think we'll be in a really good spot.
Our first segment with Coach Wylie on the strength and conditioning side for football. We're talking about the move to the Big Ten. Obviously, you're not going to be here when that takes place with the men's volleyball squad, but how does that impact your team and the outlook and just the competition in general, switching conferences in your sport?
I think it's going to be a really tough thing. It's a lot of traveling that athletes will have to do, a lot of scheduling, balancing they'll have to do, but I think our guys will be able to handle it.
Tall guys on airplanes, though. 6'8", traveling.
Get that
not
first
so
class.
easy.
Get that first class.
All right, Kyle Paulson, USC men's volleyball. Get to Galen to see them all season long. USCTrojans.com/tickets will get you in the building. And don't wait until game time to plan for retirement. Open your free iTrust Capital account today and get your crypto IRA. iTrust Capital is the official cryptocurrency platform of the USC Trojans. One more segment to come tonight of Trojans Live.
Rising up, pushing up to the summit. Got the keys to the show, yeah, we run it. Set the pace for the race, and we don't wait. Give it all for the win, this is our day. Energy, energy, unleash the inner beast. Energy, energy, running to the top. See you at the peak. Unleash the inner beast, but we never stop till the victory.
Is damn near impossible. Luckily, they do it from behind the mic. It's Trojans Live on your home for Trojans football. AM 790 KABC.
One final segment of Trojans Live on a Monday night. Our final Trojans Live of the semester. We'll have a handful of shows as we usually do in the spring. Hopeful time as we get into spring football, and then hopefully basketball is pushing towards postseason, all the other stuff going on around here. But that's it for us for the month. Our over-under is presented by Pechanga Resort Casino, proud partner of USC Athletics. You guys wanted some to rehash a couple for you.
Yes.
We had one that was over-under Zachariah Branch, 3.5 return touchdowns this season. He had 2. Sean was the only one that got that right, going on the under. And then over-under catches at 55. Very impressed with that line I set for myself because it ended up being 52. So I was right there in terms of setting the line. Sean and Keely went over. Max went under. So technically Max was correct. It was Taj at 52. Everyone had Brendan Rice leading the team. So just Taj sort of stays underrated,
He does.
Totally. I liked their comments last week about him, how he's going to make an NFL roster. Just get his foot in the door, give him a shot, and maybe he keeps that underdog mentality alive.
No over-under this week. I want your CFP picks instead. Michigan,
goodness.
Alabama. What you got in the Rose Bowl?
I got Michigan taking care of business. They're good. They're physical. They're deep. And they win.
Let's say Alabama. You give Saban that much time. Go Alabama.
Washington and Texas in the Sugar Bowl, I believe it is.
I'm very excited for that game.
Yeah, it's a good game. I mean, I'm happy for Washington in the sense that not only do they get in, probably bad luck for them that they didn't get the Rose Bowl, but I feel they get a winnable game. It's not sort of like lining up against Georgia that maybe can manhandle you. Texas is sort of like looking in the mirror a little bit.
Totally. I got the Huskies. I mean, there's people that believe Texas has the best roster, but they've had games where they've stumbled to the finish line. You could say the same thing about the Huskies, but I think they go in with a lot of momentum after the Oregon win.
Yeah, Huskies, they came out angry against Oregon.
Very impressive.
They were like, we heard all the hype.
You know what happened around the time they played us, unfortunately? They found a running game a little bit. They became much more balanced at the end of the season. Johnson became a big-time runner, particularly in the game against USC. But even against Oregon, I thought that they had a lot more going on than just leaning on Penix. So So who's your winner then? You have what? That's Michigan and Washington for you?
Give me the Huskies, man. Give me the Huskies.
Huskies cutting down the nets.
Cutting down the nets. They found something in that matchup with Oregon. Being out physical in Oregon. They found something there.
What a way for the Pac-12 to go out.
That'd be so classic.
Is that what you got?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
God, look at all
Let's
this Pac-12 pride. We've got Trojans Live pride. I want to thank everybody who's been with us all season long. 100% attendance for Jalen and Chase. We just took attendance. Those guys stepped up the whole way. But thank you, guys. Thanks to everyone. Rick Cutler here, Gia Lares, Herman back in the studio. All my co-hosts,
Sean.
Say goodbye from Sean. We will see you next spring. Until then, fight on, everybody.
You can't spell victorious without USC.
4th and 9. This is the ball game. Takes the snap, steps up in the pocket, throws for the end zone. It is caught. Touchdown, USC.
Trojans Live was presented by Monster Energy. Unleash the beast. Make sure to check back in next Monday night at 7 for more Trojans Live. Exclusively on your home for all things Trojans.